gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I begin my questioning, I do want to take a moment to call for a committee hearing focus on Signalgate, since that is part of our coverage and jurisdiction here. Messages containing war plans or other highly sensitive information on unsecure apps like Signal can easily be intercepted by adversaries. This reckless move is particularly concerning because sophisticated adversaries like Russia and Iran, which provide support to the Houthis, could have intercepted these messages and passed them along to the Houthis, who could have acted on that information to kill American service members. In light of even most recent news regarding widespread use of Signal by top administration officials, we owe it to these brave fighters and the American people to get to the bottom of this to ensure it never happens again. So thank you for indulging me. Now I turn to my questions. Mr. Cooper, thank you for joining us as we consider your nomination to Director of OPM. My guest at the President's State of the Union address is one of thousands of veterans who have been fired due to Elon Musk's cuts to the federal workforce. My guest's 16-year career as a dedicated employee at the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security exemplifies the arbitrary and haphazard approach currently being undertaken by Musk, OPM, and the U.S. DOGE service. So yes or no, if you're asked to fire additional veterans, will you follow the continued targeting of these men and women who put their lives on the line for our country and who embody their highest standards of discipline, or can we find a pathway to at least give them some opportunity to keep their jobs?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Just two things, if I could, very quickly. Number one, just to reiterate, as you know, OPM does not have authority to fire individuals, so any activities would be through the agency. And secondly, one of the things that perhaps we could work on together is I do think there's an opportunity to meaningfully reform how we think about the reduction in force rules, including things like VSIP and otherwise, that I think would allow us to have a very rational process when we unfortunately find ourselves in situations where we have to identify spending cuts.
Right, and so one of the things, so you kind of just went into that, which I would appreciate. Will you commit to prioritizing transparency and providing lawmakers and the public with accurate, up-to-date information on the number and types of personnel being laid off before coordinating or executing additional layoffs? As a personal peeve of mine, for example, I also sit on the VA committee, and the VA committee announced 15% cuts to the Phoenix VA, which for us that have lived there and used the Phoenix VA seems both arbitrary and just pure crazy, and we have zero insight into what the process was, what the thinking was, where did the 15% come from, how is this going to affect services, is it going to affect services? And so this is where I think, OPM could be much better at communicating, what is, even if we're going to disagree, I want to see what the thought process is. I want you to show me your work.
Yes, Senator. Look, we want to do this in a way that is transparent and responsive to the needs of Congress and the needs of the American people, and so I look forward to working with you on that.
Great, thank you. Mr. Cooper, another casualty of this administration mass layoffs has been is the CHIPS program officer. So far, a third of its staff has been decimated, creating chaos for the semiconductor companies trying to invest in Arizona. And this is one of our fastest growing economies in Arizona in terms of also just high wages. So we're very concerned, obviously, that if we can't effectively distribute some of the funds from the CHIPS program, that we're going to have some of these companies either not invest, move away, and who knows what's going to happen when it comes to the effectiveness of this, some of the tariffs now. So additionally, some companies may not be able to obtain their funds, and new grant programs may not be announced. So already semiconductor companies have reached out to our office saying that they are extremely confused because their points of contact have just absolutely departed. They have no one to talk to. So given this critical importance to Arizona's burgeoning semiconductor industry, both obviously for national security and for trade, and of course the president's stated goal, he was very happy when TSMC said they're going to add 3 more fabs in Arizona for a total of 6 fabs. Do you commit to protecting the CHIPS program office from future workforce reductions, which would be in line also with the president's goal of making sure that our chip manufacturing returns to the United States?
Yeah, Mr. Senator, as you know, look, it's very hard for me to make a specific commitment with respect to a specific program, but maybe if I can answer your question more generally, one of the things that I expect OPM to do as we look at the plans that the agencies are providing to us is to ask these hard questions, which is, okay, if we are reducing headcount, what is our plan if these are critical services for how we deliver them and make sure there is no interruption? And I certainly hope that we will have an influence on that.
In some regards, like what, a lot of us are just questioning why didn't it start the other way? I think many of us actually were looking back at the Clinton days where there was just joint agreement of working together in a bipartisan manner to find where we can find cuts, find efficiencies, cut bureaucracy. Instead, it seems like we're cutting first and then asking questions later, which may work in the VC world, but when you actually have services to deliver to, for example, veterans that expect someone to pick up the Veteran Crisis Hotline, or you have seniors that need to get their Social Security, it doesn't work like the VC world. So as much as my Colombian brother over there thinks everything is analogous to the business world doesn't have to defend, two borders, doesn't have to take care of millions of seniors, whether it's on Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security, doesn't have to take care of hundreds of thousands of veterans. That's something that government can only do. And this is why I think it's important that we keep that in mind before we take this VC Silicon Valley idea that we break it and then figure it out later. Because when you break things in government, people die. Thank you, and I yield back my time.